Hugh, lovely to have you on the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
For a show like this, how do you choose what song to open with?
There was a moment during the Greatest Showman filming, before the filming, where I had no idea if the film was going to happen or not. For most of the time, it was a 70% chance it wasn't going to happen. And I said to Justin and Ben, who'd written that opening song, I was like, I don't know what's happening with this film, but at some point I'm going to use that as probably the greatest opening song ever. And so, clearly, that's the end of the story.
The Greatest Showman has been a massive hit, but it's more than that. It seems to be more than people just liking the tunes. It seems to have some sort of quite deep connection with people. Yeah. What is that?
I get videos daily from school groups, from karaoke bars, from weddings, all ages, all predominantly younger, but all ages, of how much those songs and the message of those songs, as well as with the music, means to them. A lot of people really connect to it. There's nothing brand new about it, but perhaps the timing of the movie, this feeling of, yes, following your dreams, of being authentic, about being yourself, and that's okay, seemed to really resonate with people.
I think of what the world could be, a vision of the one I see. A million dreams is all it's gonna take.
Your film The Frontrunner opened in Australia recently, and you played Gary Hart, who was a Democrat senator frontrunner for president in 1988, and then had scurrilous revelations about his private life come out, and that derailed his whole political career. It was a very defining moment in American politics.
Not sleaze, and I care about the sanctity of this process.
Do you think that it's possible these days to have a public career and still have a private life and gauge, how much personal material you want out there or not? Or is it basically something that you have to try very hard to personally guard?
In my business, it's possible. Frances McDormand won the Oscar last year, and she famously never does an interview, hardly ever. So it is possible. I think it'd be tough if you were starting. I know for people starting in the business now, that it's a requirement they have a social media platform, or you will not get the part. And if you don't start it, the studio started for you. And I know that that's the case, so it's getting harder and harder. In politics, I think it's impossible. I think it's naive to expect that you can really keep your private life private. There's lots of things you can do now that I think people accept, but what they won't accept is inauthenticity.
But how do you then, as a public figure, gauge the line between giving that authenticity but keeping something for yourself? So when you're crafting a show like this where you want to put some personal in, but...
Yeah, I think that's different for every person. I am a quite open person. Sometimes people say to me like, "Babe, I don't think you need to share that." And I go, but I think it's important for people. If people want to get a real sense of who I am, that story really illustrates that.
I want you to help me understand something that I've often wondered, which is when you are the star of a very big show, like, say, The Boy from Oz, I've occasionally been at things where you'll have the voice come over as the show's about to start, and the role of, the lead tonight will be played by Mackie McNo-Name, and you hear the audience sort of do that, oh. That must be a horrendous moment for everyone backstage, but also how much pressure is there when you're the sort of centre person to never be sick, to never be having an off day, to always be...
A lot. So when I did The Boy from Oz, it was the same for Todd McKinney when he was here. He was synonymous with that show. And sort of when I did the show on Broadway, I never missed a show. And there was a couple of times where I probably should have. I was sick and I got some jabs from the doctor to get you through. God bless America. If you want to go on, you can go on. But there is a lot of pressure. What I try to remind myself is it's all, in the end, life goes on. Everything we are, it's all okay. We are all replaceable, but that ethos still exists, I think, in showbiz, and I do take it seriously, sometimes too seriously, I think.
Whoa, my baby, my baby, my baby smiles, we are going to Rio. There's an arrow.
What's it like when you're standing backstage and you hear the orchestra tuning up and you hear that murmur of the crowd?
Yeah. I'm so glad you asked me that. No one's ever asked me that question. I stand in the wings deliberately. And I know some actors, it's the last place they'll be because they'll want to vomit if they stand there. But I love going to the theatre. And I love getting there 5 minutes early. I don't want to be, I've never been late in my life, right, for the theatre. Just as the lights go down, you feel that hubbub, the excitement, you're there. That feeling, I remember, it's visceral for me. So as an actor, I always stand in the wings before. I want to hear it, remind myself of this is not my 5th show of the week. This is someone's excitement of seeing this for the only time in their life.
You turned 50 recently and you posted a fantastic photo on social media that made us all feel quite a bit better about getting older. Who did you the favour of snapping that shot of you?
Who took my daughter? Of course. Who else to bring you back down to earth? But I laughed so much. And I thought I've just got to post that because I really looked like I was already ready for the coffin.
How are you feeling in your head about life going into your 50s as opposed to your 20s and 30s and 40s?
Oh, better than ever. I'm someone who, I've always taken things probably a bit too seriously. Probably worked a little too hard, tried a little too hard. When I was young, I had a lot of fears, more fears. I mean, when I was very young, it was a bunch of classic fears of heights or this or that. But as I got older, everything seemed to really matter to me. And if this doesn't go well, it's going to be a disaster. And a lot of that has started to drift away, which is thrilling. Just the right amount of a drifting while still having that same ambition and drive to make everything the best I've ever done it and to keep improving. And doing this show is like, I pinch myself. Like, it's not like I was 18 thinking, one day I want to fill the entertainment centre in Perth, one day. It never even crossed my mind, So much of what is happening for me is so crazy. And I just have to keep reminding myself to be grateful and how lucky I have been with, someone said this great quote the other day, is I've had a lot of who luck in my life. It was American. I've had a lot of who luck. And I'm like, who luck? I was like, oh, the people in life. I've had amazing people in my life that have made a massive difference and without whom I wouldn't be here today.
Well, I hope the who luck continues. Thank you very much for speaking to us.
Thanks, Lee. Lovely to see you.